Cool. Well, I have 2 minutes after, so I'm going to go ahead and kick us off today. Welcome everyone. I'm so excited you're here. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Karam. I'm joined by the amazing Figma Sites team. I'm a PMM here at Figma. Today, we're hosting our very first office hours. We have our amazing Figma Sites team here to answer all of your product-related questions. Before we dive in, just a few housekeeping items. This session is being recorded and will be sent out following this live stream. Please use the Q&A button in the Zoom to ask your questions. We do have our amazing product and engineer team here to answer your questions, and set your chat to everyone. We would love to hear where you're calling in from. I heard Dubai and California, and I heard Ghana as well, which is super cool. As always, please be kind, please be respectful, use common sense. And be mindful of Figma's code of conduct. So a quick agenda to help set the stage here today. So we're going to be doing a quick introduction to Figma Sites, and walking through a few features with Figma Sites. And then we'll be passing it off to Anthony and Lauren to do a deep dive demo of Figma Sites, and we're going to leave some time at the end to go over some questions. We have our product manager, Adam Lehman, here today. We also have engineers Brandon and Ashma here today to help with our Q&A portion of today's session. Cool. So if you were at Config or watching Config live, you might have noticed Figma launched Figma Sites in beta. Figma Sites is a brand new product that allows designers to publish their designs to the web directly all inside of Figma. And if you're used to Figma design, you'll feel right at home in Figma Sites' canvas with a few key differences. We've made it super easy to design once and adapt everywhere. You can set up breakpoints for desktop, tablet, and mobile, and edit across your layouts with features like auto layout and multi-edit. You can make sure your website is responsive across all devices. I just saw it hit 1.4K, which is wild to me. To help you move super fast, we've also set up some ready-to-use templates and draggable blocks for you. These include hero sections, footers, full page layouts. And if you're already have components set up in your library, and my colleague Anthony just called out that I have a little component icon with my buttons, which is hysterical. But if you have those components set up in your library, you can drag them in from the libraries tab. So if you have your design system, you can access your design system right in Figma Sites as well. Interactivity is obviously key to making any website shine. And now with code layers, which actually just launched to 100% of full seat users last week, you can add interactivity, literally any type of interaction you can imagine with AI chat or code to your web design. So think hover effects, 3D spinning objects. I've even seen some mini interactive games, which has been really, really cool to see. And then that all-powerful publish moment. So of course, this leads to that magic publish button. You can preview your design in real HTML and test out how it looks on different screen sizes. And when you're happy with your design, just hit that publish button and you'll get an auto-generated three-strand URL, or you can attach your own custom domain in the DNS settings of your Figma Sites page. And with that, I will hand over to Anthony to kick off the demo.
Awesome. Thank you, Karam. I'm going to replace your share. Here we go. Cool. Okay. Let me just pull up my chat real here quick. I love to see the chat as we go through this, which is great. Can everyone hear me and see my screen? It should look like a sites page right now. Great. Awesome. Well, hey, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Anthony. I work on our advocacy team here at Figma, and I'm going to give you a tour of part of sites. We're going to do a lot of the stuff covering the basic editor, layouts, just kind of getting a feel for how all of it works. And then Lauren's going to cover some more things like interactions and code layers and publishing. So this should be a lot of fun. I'm going to do some interesting things as we go through this and just really try to make sure you all are really comfortable with sites. If you're coming from Figma, you're going to find a lot of similarity. But if you're brand new to it, this should be a good primer as well. Audio keeps going in and out. Okay, well, we'll look into that. Okay. Um, great. Okay. Glad to hear it's okay for some folks. Great. Fine for y'all. Um, okay. So this is Figma sites. When you create a new site, you're going to be presented with a page like this. And again, if you're coming from Figma, this is a lot of this is going to feel very familiar, right? And you're going to have a lot of the benefits of the Figma platform here as well, too. So everything like multiplayer, commenting, version history, all your sharings and permission settings and things like that, as well as quick actions, a lot of the same shortcuts, everything like that. And this whole concept of, general canvas area and the left sidebar and the right sidebar. But there are some new things here. You can probably tell that already, right? So we see that we actually have a new left navigation bar. Sometimes we call this the left rail. Just a quicker way to access some of your settings and different things that we have. We have a publish button, probably one of the bigger pieces of site since we're going to be publishing our designs directly. There's a new pages view here too as well, which we're going to dive into. And you'll see that there's going to be some new properties in the panel over here as well. Things like interactions, as well as accessibility, other things like that. Now, we have a lot coming for accessibility. We're not going to spend too much time on it today, but stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of really great things coming up for that. So let's dive into our probably the most obvious thing, which is our new page type that we have here. Web pages are a new page type in Figma. Figma sites that support responsive and adaptive layouts. Now, in Figma design, we did have some level of responsiveness, but now we can fully adapt and change our content across different breakpoints, right? So on the web, we want the websites to change depending on the size of your device, whether you're on a desktop or you're on a mobile screen. You might even want to change what type of information is being shown depending on that environment that you're designing for. So let's look at a few things here. So here we have a page. We can also create new pages anytime we need with a W key. In fact, let me turn on those. Okay, cool, great. We've also got when we look at these pages, we can look at the page names that we have up here as well, right? So every time we create a new page, we're going to get a new URL, slug, route, page, basically the name that you'll see in the URL. You can change these at any time just by typing and editing in them as well. So if you wanted an about page, you can just create an about page like that pretty easily. So let's go ahead and look at a couple of things. When you start a new file, you'll probably have something that looks a little bit more like this, where you're going to have a desktop view and a mobile view, but you can create new breakpoints anytime that you need. There's a few defaults that you can add in here directly. You can also create your own custom breakpoints, right? And then you can always set up custom sizes however you need them for different pages. Can I zoom in a little bit? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, let's bump up the UI as well while we're at it. There we go. One thing to keep in mind, and we're gonna start from scratch right now, just because I want to get this clear to everybody that you can design just like you would in Figma if you wanted to, right? You can go ahead and you can create a shape like this. Let's go ahead and make this red so everyone can really see it. And this shape, there we go. Let's get rid of that auto layout for a second. Cool. This shape is going to basically work like it would in Figma, absolutely positioned, constrained to whatever corners that you're going to have it. And I'm going to use this as a simple example to explain a couple of the key concepts that we have here. So the first thing I want to talk about is multi-edit. Multi-edit, as you can see here, on this desktop screen is actually controlling our layouts for our other screens as well for this particular object, its positioning and whatnot. That is because the desktop here is set to primary. Now, if I want to, I can set my other views to primary as well. But you'll see here that, again, as this is controlling, you can see a cool thing here happening with the constraints as well, right? Where it's able to know where the center is, where the left and right are. That's all being controlled because this is a primary view. In my other views, if I change any properties over here, these are going to be independent from that primary view. So the primary view is where you can cascade your changes to the other breakpoints that you have. Whereas in these other breakpoints that are not the primary, the changes are going to be unique to those, kind of like an override, right? So if I was to say change the color of this one, I can make this blue. And again, back in the primary, I can still control its position and whatnot, but that color is going to stay unique to that one breakpoint that we have there. You can set other breakpoints as the primary breakpoint. If I wanted to, I could set mobile first. If I wanted to do that, you can kind of see some interesting properties there because of how I had the constraint set. But that's how you can sort of control which view is the one that you want to work in as far as editing content across all of your breakpoints. Cool. This behavior here, just to call it out real quick, is a little bit different than the select matching layers that you might have known from Figma. You still have that as well. Excuse me. You still have that as well. However, in this case, this will happen automatically in the primary view regardless. Okay, so that was a circle. I think we can do a little bit better than a circle, so we're going to up our designs here. One way that we might do that, let me set this back to primary. There we go. One way that we can do that, and probably a pretty common way for a lot of folks, is we could actually copy directly from Figma, right? So if I wanted to, I can go over to a design that I've created in Figma Design. This is actually using some of our old layout elements from our old website. We have new updated ones now. And here, let's go ahead and just copy over a piece of our design that we have here. And I'm going to go back to our sites file. We have interoperability between these two. Much like with other parts of the Figma platform, you can just copy and paste things between different tools, and you're going to get those things showing up. Now, a couple things to note. We copied in this design that was a different size than the screen size that we were designing for here. So we want to take advantage of auto layout. Like this is where auto layout really comes into power. Again, while you can create stuff from scratch, you can create really fun websites that have no concerns around auto layout or anything like that. We'll often find that things like auto layout constraints can actually make this whole process much easier because they help to describe situations where things need to change depending on the screen width. So, or the content inside them as well. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually apply auto layout to the outer containers of our pages. We always want that outer container to have an auto layout applied. And then what I can do, let's go ahead and just change some paddings here because it set them automatically. There we go. Set that to 0. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the width of this component to be actually fill, because I want this to just fill the available space that it has. Now, that looks great on our desktop, right? We're able to see that the current auto layout was able to support that. We probably want to change some properties of our other view here, right? Since in our Figma design file, the only thing that we had was that one layout size, but now we want to make sure that it's actually going to work for our different views. So what we can do here is let's go ahead and just adjust some of our other auto layout properties. Remember, as I said, everything that's changed in the main view will change across the others, but we can now define for tablet the different properties that we want. So in this case, let's get rid of some of this padding. This is pretty aggressive. So we're going to go ahead and just reduce that down a bit. Maybe we'll even reduce our space between the middle. Okay, it's looking a little bit better. Mobile could probably use some work. What we're going to do here is basically set some of our paddings again, just really dropping those down quite a bit, reducing the space in between that we have here. And in fact, let's go ahead and just change the auto layout direction as well, right? So you really start to see the power of auto layout here. And this is just a couple of simple frames with a couple of auto layout containers. If you want to watch, Lauren actually has an incredible video on auto layout if you're looking for a good primer. So I would go and check that out. So you can see how we've made the designs unique across our different views. However, if I go back to my primary view, my primary breakpoint, dogs of Figma, there we go. You'll see that content still changes across those views because those layers are still connected to each other under the hood. This is really powerful, right? Unique layouts across breakpoints, but content still aligned and connected across those as well. Side note, Cats of Figma is a real website. Dogs of Figma is a real website. You should go check them out. I'm sure you can Google it. It's basically all of the employees, cats and dogs. Cool. So what we did here is we made this nice sort of block element, or this section of our site. We made it look nice across our different viewpoints. This is kind of a concept that I think a lot of designers are familiar with, but just to sort of spell it out, this idea of thinking in blocks, right? When you look at a design for a site, it's often organized into pieces, right? You've got your feature sections, your hero sections, things like that. That's going to be really valuable when you're designing in Figma design. In Figma sites. Let's look at a quick example here, right? Like, let's say I had all of my layouts already set for those things. That thinking in blocks makes it really easy to decide where elements could go. Or maybe you're actually using components or layers that someone else just needs to quickly put a page together. That block concept is going to be really, really valuable. And as I had said before, you may decide that On your mobile views, there's actually higher priority information that you need to be able to show first, and you have the freedom to set that up as well. Cool. Okay. So going back to our design here that we have, this was nice. And this was actually a really nice way to set this up real quick. We were able to get our other views in there. Figma also provides you with some of these building blocks. In fact, we call them blocks, where you can go ahead and use these to build out your pages. So if I want to, let's just grab a new page down here. I can go into the insert button here on the left, and you're going to see a section of blocks. Now, blocks can be entire pages. If you wanted to just have a full page to start from, you can see it there. Or blocks could just be small sections of pages or features. So maybe I want to add a navigation at the top and I want to add a hero section. Then maybe I want to add a feature like this. And you can see that in these blocks, we've already done all the work that we did up here before, right? So these blocks are sort of pre-configured to already have those changes across the breakpoints for you. We have a ton of templates. We're going to get into that and do a little bit as well. But these are sort of like an in the canvas sort of way to have some good starting points or inspiration, or if you just want to see like some of the ways that these standard layouts are built. Cool. So that was great. For those of you who are coming from Figma, you might say, awesome, but this is a lot of things, like let's say if I had, manually changed some font sizes over here, like let's go ahead and reduce the font size a bit. Maybe we brought it down even smaller on mobile. Like this is really cool, but it's also not very scalable, right? We want to use features that make it easy to scale the work that we're doing. And so this is where styles and components come in. These are the same features and functionality that we have in Figma, so you can actually use them here as well. So you can go ahead and you can create your own styles as needed. So if I want to, I could go in and set up a type style very quickly, call this header, something like that, and create my new style. One new thing about styles, and you can see it right here, is this section called breakpoints. So we actually have responsive text styles now, meaning that if you have, you can add breakpoints here that match your breakpoints on your page. In fact, you can notice that because I had already done the work to design this on the page, Figma was able to say, oh yeah, you want to have a responsive text style at desktop at 64, tablet at 44, and mobile at 32. So it went ahead and added that for me automatically because I had already manually set up that work on the canvas. Just a nice way to sort of speed up that process of creating those responsive styles. So I can say create style. Now I have that there. And again, the advantage here is that you're not constantly having to set up different styles for every breakpoint, which you then have to go apply manually. In this case, you can apply one style and it will pick up those sizing changes across those other breakpoints. There is a lot more here you can do with this. We're probably not going to touch on it too much today, but things like variables and whatnot, you can tie all of that into your style. So there's a lot of functionality and power. I would definitely go check it out. There's some great stuff in the Help Center too as well. Cool. Also, the other half of styles. Styles are great for scalable typography or colors or any effects and things like that. But we also want to have components, and components are supported. So you can go ahead and you can create main components whenever you want. If I wanted to, I could, maybe have a card component over here, Option Command K. Sorry, my shortcuts aren't showing up for some reason. That's okay. And I've got my main components and I can have as many instances as I want. So that same component instance property that you're familiar with from Figma works here as well. And if anyone's not totally familiar, basically a main component means anytime you change the main component, all of the instances will update as well. This is basically like one of the tenets of how we do scalable design inside of Figma. And one really cool thing about it is, much like responsive typography, we now also have responsive components, meaning we can have components that automatically change their layout, their size, any of their properties using responsive components, which we're actually basically hooking into the component sets and variants that you might be familiar with from Figma. I'm going to show you a really quick, cool way to do this. Remember how we made this design here before? I can actually grab from our main breakpoint here, and I'm just going to option click to make a copy of this. You'll notice it's actually pulling out all three of those simultaneously for me, right? Because I had that main one selected with multi-edit. I'm going to go ahead and say create component set. And I'm going to name our property here. You can call it layout, you can call it breakpoint, you can call it anything you want. The property name for the variant doesn't matter, but the values, as long as the values match your breakpoint names in your frames, you're going to get that automatic responsiveness working. So basically, we'll call this desktop, we'll call this tablet, and we'll call this mobile. Cool. I'm going to delete this example. And now you'll see that if I bring in an instance of this component, it's automatically assigning the correct variant to the correct screen size. So again, pretty cool stuff. This is getting a little bit advanced, but just showing you some cool ways to get started with some of the more powerful features that we have in this side of Figma. So let's go ahead and just sort of preview some of what we have here as well. So you can always preview any part of your website. There's a preview button on every web page, also in the top right-hand corner. You're going to get this inline previewer. Here you'll see that there's the default breakpoints that you can click through. You can also just drag from the side and check out the responsiveness of your site. There's some things I would change here. I'd probably start centering this Cats of Figma page as the page gets too wide, but that gives you a basic idea sort of how this is going to work. Where was this when I was manually building out versions? I know. This is such a nice thing to have. Again, I do find that still thinking in that way of like, what are your primary breakpoints? Like what are the most common sizes you need to design for? You can get that either from research or you can get that from looking at like, if you don't have the research, just going in and finding out like what are the most common screen sizes for the surfaces that you're designing for can be a good starting point for that too as well. Cool. So last thing I'm going to show you before we're going to switch this over to Lauren real quick here. There's a lot more I'd love to show you, and we are going to have a lot of tips and a lot of additional videos coming after this as well, is to talk about libraries. So I mentioned that we have styles and we have components. You can also hook into your libraries here as well. So if you have additional libraries that were coming from Figma design, you can tap into those here. I'm going to switch to a little bit more advanced example to show this off. So here, we have a website that has a nice landing page for an app feature that we're building here. And I actually have my library connected to this. So I actually have my entire design system available for me to use here. That means I can access my styles, I can access my variables, I can access any marketing illustrations or assets, iconography, all of my components that I want to use. I can get them right here. This is great for atomic things and relatively static things, right? So when I say atomic, I mean things like buttons. If you want to bring those in here, it's good. One thing that I would just consider is the goal of Figma sites is a little bit different than the goal of like the product design and development workflow, where you're going to be working with developers and working in dev mode and things like that. Attempting to force both of those realities into like the same library with advanced components can be challenging. So I would recommend that if you're going to use libraries, it's really good for like foundational things. So your primitives, your colors, your iconography, your illustrations, and things like that. Because you might find that the things that developers need are going to differ from what you're trying to create for a tool like sites, where you're just going to go ahead and publish right away. So just something to be aware of. Cool. Last thing, let's talk about templates. When you create a new sites file, you're presented with a template picker. So if I was to just go ahead and click this and then click on a new site, you'll see here that we have a ton of templates. These were designed and developed by a partner, Play Studio. They are really cool. So I would go and check them out. We're going to look at a couple of them right now. Again, these are really great starting points. Also great learning tools if you want to see how some more advanced layouts are being set up. So here, we've got, this is a cool example for a browse everything site. I believe the company's called Area here. Most of these templates are also going to come with a styles page for you. So this is just a frame that sits outside of the web pages. This is mainly so that you can sort of see what's already in here. If there's existing styles, iconography, even some main components for things like buttons and menus, you're going to find all of that here. Lauren's going to talk a little bit more about that. So this is a pretty great example. We've also got this wonderful running for change example that you can see here. And lastly, I'll show this eTran one. This one's kind of cool because it actually uses a sidebar. So if you want to like sort of see some techniques for doing like fixed sidebars, you can check that out. And here are those actual published sites, right? So I actually have those full working sites. We just click publish. And again, Lauren's going to get to publishing at the end here. So you'll have a chance to see how all that works. But yeah, it's incredibly great starting points for any designs that you want to try and create, or to just sort of see how different things are put together. Hi, Georgia. Cats meowing like crazy. Cool. Okay. So we've seen some great layouts. We've seen some great responsiveness, some of the ways that you can start to build out and create those pieces. But now we want to make this more interactive. So I'm going to pass it over to Lauren for a bit more on that.
Excellent. Can everybody see my screen? I have also lost my chat. Okay, let's get everything open.
Looks
My
good.
my fingers are on fire from trying to get all your questions. Hopefully, we're answering them as fast as we can. I know I saw several questions about hamburger menus. I'm definitely going to go over that. There was a couple questions on modes. I do believe we can use modes. Maybe Anthony, if you have a sec, if you want to get like a rapid fire
Yeah.
demo that we had yesterday, while I'm chatting, and then we can show folks at the end. Um, Okay, cool. I'm gonna jump into it. Interactions. We have a lot of different types of interactions that we can use. We have pre-built interactions that are right in Figma sites. We have interactive components. If you're used to working with in Figma design, you're probably used to interactive components. And then we have code layers, which is even another level of interactions. So with our templates, this is one of the blooms, our blooms template, a little flower template. I've been very obsessed with flowers these last several months, so this is the one I always go to. But in our templates, we already have a lot of interactions set up for y'all. So if I go to on my right hand side, the interactions panel, you'll see like we've set up, if there are multiple pages, those have been set up with those interactions. These are going to be things that you're used to in Figma design. Just these, we call them at Figma are noodles, just connecting one thing to another. We have those a lot set up. Buttons we have set up with, let's see, we have this one like set up with links. So a lot of those will be already pre-set up in our templates. We also have some of our templates have additional additional interactions as well. And I wanted to just quickly go through all of the interactions that we have because it's a lot more than you're even used to in Figma design, and they're really, really powerful as well. So again, how to add these interactions, it's going to be you're going to click on something on your screen, go over to the right-hand side, and we'll actually get to make interactive with code, but what you're going to look for is the interactions and click on the plus, and these are where all of our interactions live. Again, we have these ones that you might be used to, things like scroll to, conditional, set variable back, but then all of these are newer for sites specifically. So two that I'm a huge fan of are our hover and our press state. So right now, if you're used to working in Figma design, if you need a hover or a press state, you're going to have to make an interactive component, which again, we're going to go into that right after this. Still very, very useful insights, still very, very encouraged. But there are also ways now where you don't have to use interactive components. And one of those is with our pressed and our hover state. So right here we have, and I'm actually going to get rid of it so we can start from scratch. With interactive components, it's in the name, they have to be a component. With our interactions here with hover and press, it can be anything on this page. It does not have to be a component. So I'm just clicking on this about text right here. I'm going to add an interaction. I'm going to add in a hover effect. And now instead of making two components or two pieces now, I'm just continuing with the one about text, and I can change all sorts of things here. I can change the opacity. I can scale this up to 2x. I can change the offset because I still want this to be kind of in line with this text right here. Let's make it a little rotated. And then I can change, let's make it bouncy because why the heck not? And now when I preview this, when I hover over this, we have that interaction happening here, and we just had to add it to that text. We didn't have to make those interactive components. The pressed effect, same type of thing, it has the similar types of, let's back us up. Oop, similar information here that you see in the hover. And then we also have reveal, which might be kind of similar to how you're using like an after delay, like show up after a certain amount of seconds. But with reveal on here, it's a little bit more, you have a little bit more freedom here, a little bit more that you can say like, okay, when do I want it to reveal? At a certain point, when the page loads or when a certain layer's in view, you can have a certain type of enter, a certain type of exit, and decide if you want it to continuously happen. And this is the reveal that's showing up as these are kind of like growing in. That's the reveal interaction that we have on there. We have scroll parallax, which is probably the most asked for thing in the land. Anytime I've been on a customer call, people want this, so we got it for you in sites. So that's been added to this here, and now it's scrolling at a different speed. So this is kind of going over that quicker than the rest of the page is scrolling. So just a fun interaction that people are really familiar with. We have scroll transform that's applied to this CD player over here. This is allowing us to both rotate and change this as we scroll. So again, just a fun thing right here. We have Marquee. I did see somebody ask if this was down, and I'm pretty confident I saw a bug this morning that this might be down. So if it's not working, we're working on it. And actually, let's see it live. Mine seems to be working so far, but this is another great example of now you don't have to have interactive components to do this. This is just adding in this marquee with the interaction right here. And again, lots of stuff you can change, direction, speed, etc. We have lightbox. I saw somebody in the chat ask about, I think they said overlay win. You must be familiar with variables win. We currently don't have overlay, but there's other ways to get a similar type of look. And also, I think this is kind of the closest one we have right now, which is called Lightbox. It's really meant for just images, but when we click on this, kind of opens as an overlay and really expands on the image. So this might be a good one to use while overlay is not here right now. And again, with Lightbox, we can change things like the background, how we want it to close, how we want it to transition, all of that stuff. Then we get into kind of like our more little fun ones. This one we have a little spoon here, a custom cursor, and I'm mixing my ingredients here. We have a mouse parallax. So this is getting fun. How to add the custom cursor is you want to be selected on wherever you want it. If you only want it on a certain part, you'd select there. But generally, I'm selecting on the entire screen. So I would select the entire screen, go to interactions, and you'll notice that's the only one you can do on the full screen. And then you would select your image. So you want to have that image as a frame in your site's file in order to get that. So that's where we had the little spoon here. This is the one that we chose here. Then we've got rapid fire because we got so much to cover. Then we have some fun typewriter effects that are going to be applied here and here. This is a mixing up the fonts. This is actually writing out the fonts. Those two can be added on any text. We have a little bit, I think this one, I always want to call it rotate, but that's not what it's called. I think it's called spin, but essentially getting a rotation in there. And that one, again, is added. Spin, yep, we can, again, change a bunch of different things there. And then our last one, draggable, is making something draggable. As it says, deciding where we want it to be where we want to be able to drag it. I can now go into here and drag this across the screen, which is awesome. Remember this draggable one, because we're going to get into something with code layers as well. So
that's great.
Whew, need a break. So these are all the ones that we have as preset interactions right in Sites. All you have to do is click on it and add those interactions. Quick water.
And for anyone, I saw some questions just on will there be recordings and stuff. Yes, there will be recordings. You can even slow us down in the recordings if you want to get a little bit more context on some of the speed as well. But hopefully this is showing you some cool stuff. So.
Yeah, I know sometimes we talk a little too fast, so definitely watch us at 0.5 speed so we can watch over and over and over again. Awesome. So we have those preset interactions. We also have, like I mentioned at the beginning, we have interactive components, which is something that you might be familiar with in Figma design, essentially creating two components, adding a prototype within there, and then making that interaction happen in there. And I know since a lot of people were asking about the nav bar, I wanted to use that as my example because I found myself that it's slightly different how I would make the nav bar in Sites than how I would make it in Figma design. So I wanted to show that off. So we have our first component here. We have our desktop component. And I know that Anthony had talked about our breakpoints with components, so having the desktop, tablet, mobile breakpoints there. I'm actually not going to do that for this one, specifically because for my mobile one, I'm going to want an open and a closed state. So I wouldn't be able to have desktop, tablet, mobile open, mobile closed. It would need to be just mobile. So I'm going to have two different components here. And my desktop one is going to be pretty much the same on tablet. So I'm just going to keep that as one. No need to have a second one there. So first, I'm just going to drop this in. I'm going to grab an instance, just copying. I'm going to paste this in, and I'm just going to pop it up to the top where I want it to be. I'm going to go into design, and I'm going to set it to a fixed state, fixed position, because I want it to always stay fixed to the top. And then because I'll have auto layout, I won't have auto layout on that. I'm just going to make sure the constraints are set to left and right. And then I'm going to bring this out, I'm going to fix my tablet one first, just since it's growing over to there. whoops, and then
You
we'll,
could do this either way. It really just depends on where your paddings are being applied, right? Like whether you have padding around the entire page,
yeah,
in which
absolutely.
case, if you want something to hang outside that padding, you could use a fixed layout with constraints. Or you could just use constraints instead of having a separate auto layout there, or you could reverse engineer it and put no padding on your page and have every block have its own padding as well. That's
Yeah.
kind of just a choice between the two. You'll notice the templates themselves tend to use the block model where every block has its own padding and the page has no padding on it, but there's nothing wrong with reversing that and just putting padding on it if you have nothing that needs to hang into the margins.
That's
Cool.
component. And obviously, this is not how we want it to be. So that's where I'm going to make that separate mobile component that we're going to make as an interactive component. So what I'm going to do, and this is the key. Also, I just got a notification my internet connection is unstable. So let's all pray to the Figma gods that it does not crap out on me. Um, so we have our mobile. This is our open one. I'm going to grab another closed one, and I'm going to make these a component set. I'm going to change this. Let's see, I want this one to be open and I want this one to be closed. And I am going to change this to be, actually, this is my open one. Yeah, this one's my open one. So, whoa. So I want to be able to close it. Okay. So my gut reaction here would be, okay, let's just delete that. Great, we have an open and a closed one. But we can't do that because what is super, super key with this is that we need to keep the information, the same information in opened and closed. So if I were to go ahead and delete this, if we have time at the end, I'll show you a broken version. If I were to delete this, none of my interactions would work, even when I set them up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide them, and I'm able to hide it because clip content is turned on. So all I did was hold down Command, hide it right there, get it to the size that I want. That's perfect. If I do Command Y, I can see it's still there. That's outline mode. And now I got to set up the interactive component. Always forget that part. We're going to just, this is a simple drag on click, set to that, on click, set to that. Great. And now we are going to nav mobile. We're going to switch this one in our components. Whoops, nav mobile, one page. This is our open one. And now from here, we're going to apply the interactions. And this is particularly key for if you have a one pager and you want to scroll down the page. It could be a little bit different if you have multiple pages. From there, I would probably set the interactions from the main component, as in like just link this one to, say, link to, and like if there was an about page, I would do it there. But because we can't do that on, if it's a one pager, like I can't, you can see I can't get to my about section. I can just get to the main page. So that's why we're doing it on the instances themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and click on about, and you'll notice that it's selecting all of them still, even though they're different components because they have the same name, which is awesome. We're going to go to about here. We're going to go to, and I want it to animate. Yep. We're going to go to gallery. Feels right there. On click, scroll to, animate. Looks like this one might not have gotten it. So we'll grab gallery.
And this full example is in our templates too as well. So those templates I was showing you earlier, you'll have access to this.
And then contact. We're going to go down to here. Perfect. Okay, great. Now we're going to close this just to make sure, because obviously we want it to be closed when we first open our site. And then we're going to go ahead and play it. So our gallery is going about contact, blah, 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 blah. We're going to scroll it down, get to here. We're able to open, close, and now we're able to scroll to about, gallery, and contact, and all of those are working as expected. So the key, the absolute key, and actually let me just do it real quick because I always find it helpful to show how to do it wrong personally, because then I don't do it that way. If I were to delete these, now they're gone. Now when I go into here, it should see I can't click, and that's because it's missing that information in one of the versions. We need the same information about gallery contact in both the open and close versions. So that's interactive components. You might still use, notice how I showed the hover and the press state, but within those, there's only things like, let's actually just get right into it. So we have like opacity, scale, offset, rotation. There's no color, you'll notice. So if you wanted to change the color of the hover state, that you would still do with an interactive component right there and pop that right in. So interactive components still very, very, very useful in Figma sites. All right, third step. So we've got our built-in interactions, we've got our interactive components. Let's get into code layers because this is what's really going to kind of change the game. So this is bringing in the power essentially of Figma Make. If you are not familiar with Figma Make, that's another one of our products that we released at Config 2025 this year. There was a live stream on Figma Make last week, I believe it was. So we'll have, I think Jerry's going to throw that in the chat so that y'all can get familiar with that as well. But this essentially, Figma Make is really great for creating sites from scratch, creating your prototypes from designs and adding in the prototyping there. Really focused on like full sites though, or full pages at least. Code layers is focused on, as it says in the name, really the layers within Figma sites. So like I have this full design out here, but I really want to add something really specific to an additional layer. That's where code layers are going to come in. So with code layers, we have two options. We can start completely from scratch, or we can start from our design. So let's start from scratch first. To do that, I'm going to press E on my keyboard. I'm going to drag out a layer, and then it's going to pop up this modal. And I can say, what do I want to add? So I'm going to add some confetti because I want some floral confetti to hover over when I hover over the screen here. So create floral confetti. I can't spell. Come on, Fifi. Okay. Create floral confetti. And then I just press go. So it's going to think, and I can look at it via the split, or I can look at it just the code. You'll notice, okay, this is great. It's moving fast. This is like rapidly creating this information here. I'm going to keep it on the split because I think it's fun to watch the code go. I don't have to stay in here though. Like I got stuff to do, fam. We are on a deadline here. So I can go into something else. I could either duplicate this, get back in here and like create a new a new code layer. I could go to something else. I've got one pre-created right here. Let's jump into my pre-created one. I'm just going to double click onto it. And this was my prompt, create floral confetti. You'll notice I had to reprompt it. It gave me a button. I was like, no, I don't want that button. So you can reprompt if it's not working like how you want it to work. You can reprompt as many times as you want. You can, there's lots of different things that you can do. You'll notice that if I click right here, open console and properties, there are some properties right here. I can change these properties if I want the particle count. Let's bring it way down. We'll refresh it. I can change all of this stuff here. You'll also notice that, I'm just going to bring it way up, reset. You'll also notice that when I hover over here, there's variables. So I could attach it to a variable if I wanted to. So let's say like the particle count, if I create a variable, we're just going to create a number. We'll call that 5 just to make it super like clear. And then click on this particle count, change it to 5. And now you can see it's doing some stuff. Boop. Forgot where I added it. I think it should be here. Yep. Now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are my 5 things. Great. And then it's replaying. Let's check on our original one, see what we got. Oh, we got some warning. So it's fixing. It knows when it didn't do its best work. We all know when we don't do our best work. So it's asking, okay, let's fix it. Great. We're going to have it fix and see if it can fix that as we're going. We'll come back to that after. Okay. So that's starting from scratch. You can prompt whatever you want. I find particularly in code layers, like not so much with make like that, I really want to start from absolute scratch. But particularly in code layers, I kind of have an idea of insights. I know what I want. Like I have a vision. So I like to start from my designs. And to do that, what I can do is create these designs. So say I kind of want these like flowers. I've got these flowers here and I want them to like kind of grow as I hover over them. What I can do here is go to interaction and say, make interactive with code. And that's bringing up pretty much same exact modal. It just looks a little bit different. It doesn't have the prompts there. It doesn't have the blue screen there, but it does now have my designs there. And you'll notice I already have my code there for my designs. And now I can prompt here. So I can say, let's see, make all the flowers hidden at first when I hover over the flowers, make them appear, and then disappear slowly. How do we spell disappear, team? Like that. Great. Okay. Again, I'm going to prompt it. We're going to let it do its thing. We can look on the split view as it thinks its heart out. Think away, little friend. And I'm going to go to, because we're rapid fire, I'm going to go to one that I've got pre-set up over here. So when you're looking for your code layers, look for the green. This is how I know I've got a code layer in there. I set this one to be absolute so I could put it on top of my other layer here because I didn't really want this within the code layer. Like I still want to be able to change that manually. So I have this code layer here. We'll go into edit our code and take a minute. So now you can see they're kind of like bouncing up as I go over it. And this one only took 2 prompts, so I gave it a little bit more information here. But then it had a background here, so I just asked it to remove the background, and with 2 prompts, we were good to go. And let's look at it right here. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. It's stalling for a minute, but back. Oh, we refreshed. There we go. Just needed a minute. There we go. Yeah. So it's as I kind of hover over things, those are popping up. So that's awesome too. Now, I will say that I could probably do this with interactive components. And in fact, funnily enough, Anthony and I didn't know we were doing the same thing, but he made it with interactive components, a similar one. And I made it with code layer. So this right here is interactive components. So what I want to do is get really into it. And again, we're going rapid fire now because I want to make sure we have time for questions. So let's do something that we absolutely couldn't really do with our preset interactions and with our interactive components. And with that, I have this option right here. So I have this DIY floral arranger. I want to be able to drag these out and I want to be able to create my own little floral arrangement. And I believe I have already set, yeah. So I set this to drag and this has clip content on it, like the regular interactive or interaction, preset interaction, like I did the bacon and eggs thing. I set this to drag and because it has clip content on it, I can't get it out of my thing. So let's just fix that real quick. But even still, like, there's more I want to do here. I want to be able to, I want like 7 hydrangeas. I don't want just one. I want a lot of hydrangeas. I want to be able to really play around with this. So we need to go that other level of adding in those code layers. And what I've done here, I'll double click to get back into it, is you can see this one, I went prompt heavy. We had fun with this one. I like did a lot of different prompts here of how I can get this to be the way that I want it. And my end result was I can drag this in now. I'm dragging it. I can even click on this and rotate so I can have it a little bit more rotated. I want 2 hydrangeas, so we're gonna again rotate this a little. And you'll notice in my first prompt, I didn't say anything about rotating. And that's because I was like, okay, I got this to a place I want to be at. Let's go deeper. Like then I was realizing, oh, we could add more. I could send this to the back. I think it was yeah, right here. I was like, okay, cool. It looks like what I want, but I want to be able to rotate and I want to be able to add stuff to the canvas. I want to be able to bring this to the front and bring this to the back. We need to add a little one of these guys because it's my favorite flower. Boop. Great. And then other things that I did in here was sometimes I was like, I have regrets. I think I went back in time and let me just show you this one where I could change my mind and say, actually, let's go back to version 17. Let's restore this version here. And I went to a different file right here because this is the original file. When I copied and pasted it over, I lost that versioning. But in your original files, it will definitely work. A couple other things I did. I added this in right here because this was not in my original design. So I prompted that into here to add an undo and a delete button. What else did I do? I moved the vase down because it was too high up in the designs, I realized. So I just prompted it, can you move the vase down? And then one more thing is I can pinpoint some stuff. So what if I click on this? I actually want this to be a different color. Let's make this more, oh God, I'm going too quick for my own good here. Here we go. Let's make it more of like a pink. So we change that color there and that'll change that color. I could also, if I'm feeling real wild, I can get into the code now here and I can say, okay, I actually want this height to be 32 or sorry, the width to be 32 and the height to be 32. And now I am a developer team. I have just promoted myself. I changed this whole thing right in the code there. So There's so much that we can do with this. Publishing, we have our site. We've done a beautiful site. Let's get to it now. So we want to publish it. We're going to go to this publish button right over here on our left-hand side. You want to title it Lauren's site. We're going to go ahead and publish. If there were errors here, let me actually go to this. I know there will be some errors, right? Maybe there weren't. Here we go. So if there were errors here, this is our linting, and this is going to be really helpful for y'all to see if there are any errors. We're going to point them out so that you can find them, you can fix them before you go to publish. You don't have to, you can override it, but we would recommend fixing them. But again, you don't have to. So this is published now. I'm going to actually copy this into the chat so y'all can go to this site. Send to everyone. So now this is a live site for y'all to see my Bloom site. We can check this out. I think it is, I think I'm sharing just Figma, but y'all can go to that site. It's a live site now. You can change your domain. I want to connect a domain right here. I could do that. Check out the learn more to learn a little bit more information on that. And now we have a live site. And the only one call out I wanted to make too is that just note, whereas when you're looking in preview, like I can look in preview right here, everything is going to change just like prototyping. As I update it, you're going to have to publish again to make sure those updates are seen in your live site. So just one call out right there. Okay. To Q&A, there's one, even before I pass it back to you, Karam, there's one that I was seeing a lot is people are asking, should I design in Figma Design or should I design in Sites? So it's whatever you want, fam. My personal recommendation is, and even like when I was first getting started in Sites, I was a little nervous. I was like, let me do design and then drop it into Sites. I kind of recommend starting in Sites. Now I do all of them starting in Sites. I think it's going to be a little bit easier to set things up the way you want it. Sometimes you may have some auto layout one way in Sites, you drop it in, or sorry, in Figma Design, you drop it into Sites and you might want to change it a little bit. I think when you start in Figma Sites, it's going to be a little bit cleaner and a little bit easier to add those interactions that a lot of them don't exist in Figma Design. So my personal recommendation would be start in Sites and get comfortable with it, but it's totally up to you. And now I'm going to pass it to Karan.
Wow, I'm going to jump in really fast because we only have a little bit of time. Thank you guys so much. I've seen this demo before, but it's always really exciting to see it again. I'm going to jump right into questions because there are a lot, over 212 questions logged in the Q&A chat. And a reminder for folks that we are going to be taking an export of those questions. So don't stop now. Keep dropping in your questions and they will get back to the team. But to dive into our Q&A portion of the session. So like I said, we have Adam, our product manager from Figma, Ashima and Brandon, both engineers on the sites team. And our first question is, when are custom fonts coming? So I'll pass over to Adam.
Oh, this one's to me, of course. When are the new features coming? Let's see, what can I tell you? In typical product fashion, I can't give you an exact date, but I can put it maybe in days, weeks, months. And I think we're in the weeks category for custom fonts. This is actually one of the largest or the highest requested feature. Anecdotally, talked to a lot of people at Config and had a little like notepad, and custom fonts was very much at the top. So we've been sort of working on that quietly in the background. It's a little bit harder than you might imagine, especially with web fonts and licensing and stuff like that. But we're actively working on it. So stay tuned.
Cool. Awesome. Moving on. Can I move my domain into Figma Sites? Passing it off to you, Ashima.
Hello. Yes, you can add your own custom domain to your Figma site, as Lauren kind of showed a little bit of in her demo as well. You can purchase a domain with a registrar outside of Figma sites and then go ahead and import it in, and your site will be available there. Right now, we only support subdomain, so you'll need to add a www ahead of your custom domain if you want to use it, but Apex domains will be available very soon too.
Sweet. I'm just going to keep moving. What features were most fun and challenging to build? Passing off to you, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, designers have always been building responsive designs in Figma Design, but until Sites came around, we didn't have like a native first-party way to unify those breakpoints and kind of build out that functionality. So that was definitely like a fun part to build out and complex, and we're still figuring out the best ways to do that. But like taking that information, passing it along to our runtime so that, we have breakpoints that function properly in a working website when you publish your website. That's definitely the most fun and challenging part wrapped in one.
Awesome.
Cool.
Cool. Passing it back to Adam. Is there an option to protect certain pages with a password, or maybe it is in the works?
Yet again. Let's see. What can I say about this? It is in the works. This was also at the very top of our list of the most requested features. I would put this one. Okay, engineering, don't get mad. I think this one's in the weeks category as well. I know we get some technical questions. In addition to plain text passwords, where you can just have a password with no username and no account, we're also looking at how we might be able to share or extend Figma's existing share functionality. Like, hey, I only want people in my org to see this, or I only want certain people who have Figma accounts. And we're also exploring Okta and SSO as well. So maybe you want to open up the site to just everyone in your company, regardless of whether they have a Figma account. So uh, stay tuned. I'll leave it at that.
Cool. And rounding us out, Alex, what's the difference between Figma Sites and Figma Make?
Yeah, this is a great question. Today, Figma Make is a great place to start if you're looking really to start from a prompt completely from scratch and kind of build out a whole application. You trade off a little bit of the ability to kind of use the full Figma canvas in Figma Make. So if you're looking still for kind of that pixel perfect level control, everything that you just saw in the live stream, Figma Sites is a great place to do that. Know that we also ask ourselves this question a lot, so lots more to come here over the course of the year. But right now, Sites, great place to start if you need that pixel perfect control. Make, great place if you're looking to do a bit more vibe coding starting from a prompt. Back to you, Carl.
Awesome. And we are only 1 minute over, and we still have over 1,000 people on this live. So thank you so much for sticking with us till the end. Special shout out to Alex for joining us as well, our AI product manager. The conversation does not end here. As a PMM, I'm selfishly very excited to go through all of your questions and triage them and help them influence our roadmap. Please join our Discord to continue chatting with our team. And with that, we will round out and just say thank you so much for joining us. We have a lot to continue building.
Yeah, thank you all so much. That was definitely us moving pretty quick on stuff. We will have a lot more content for y'all on those different areas that we covered today too as well.
Yep. There's tomorrow, I'm putting out a video very similar to what I just did here with a little bit more detail on the code layers. So if you want to check that out, Figma will be retweeting that. Awesome. Thanks all.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.